We're going to talk about how to save yourself a year wasted, potentially, if not five, or your whole life. I've seen that happen too, or in some cases, just 3 months because you're trying to do everything yourself as an entrepreneur, or you feel like you got to pay all these people because it's got too complicated. Or if you're a coach and you don't even want to build a business, you're trying to figure out how can I just spend more time coaching, less time networking and getting clients. You got to do that, of course, in some way, but creating the products and the videos and the social media. And so the power of the group, save yourself a year wasted, consultants who just want to focus on their clients and not have to actually build all this stuff in the back end. So the power of the group avoids disaster. So let's do it. Gail,
I,
anything from what we've done over the last, month or so, power of the group stories?
yeah, so many, but I think the most important one for me is my rebranding. So, I went through a massive change. Not going to tell the story. It doesn't matter right now, but that required a whole shift in my business. And I had no idea where to take it. Literally, one meeting, one person said, "This is really what the name of your company is." I'm like, "Holy crap, you're totally right." Next thing I knew, "Oh, here's the products that sits for you." Oh my God, you're right. And now I have a whole company, products, and a process to move forward. And it happened literally in a weekend. It all came together in a weekend versus
Yeah, and the
6 months to a year.
alternative is a brand strategist, a marketing consultant, perhaps someone who helps with purpose alignment to bring a product into market. Right there, you're looking at 15, 20 grand worth of coaching potentially, or 3 months trying to figure it out yourself. So how Florian, have you been kind of taking advantage of the power of the group to avoid disasters for yourself? Success
That's a
stories and
great.
also things that are work in progress, either way. It's what's the truth of this, operator, owner, doing everything, fighting the technology, fighting the networking, fighting the time stuff, family, all of this is all together for us.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have more questions than answers today. One of them being, what is a group and what is a disaster?
Oh,
These are, I think, two important questions for this specific topic. So I'm going to give my quick definition. A group is a gathering of people with a shared desire. In this context, at least, shared desire or goal, depending on how anyone is speaking, how people speak. But that's, to me, that's the definition I have of it, and you can tell me if it resonates with you or not. And what's a disaster? I think, to me, the disaster would be dying without having explored everything I can explore in my life as a human, at least. Whatever we believe about afterlife, it's just I want to end this life someday, be it today or tomorrow, knowing I explored everything I could. That's my version of a disaster, and it involves it involves my family. So my most pressing desire in this life is to have a family and have everything work so my family can be sustained, be happy, be satisfied, and be free. So they can explore whatever they want to explore as well, my wife and my son. And now that this is defined, the story I have is it's exactly that. It's I can grow on
well, let
my
me let
own.
me let me
Yeah,
take
go
let's take a
ahead if you
second.
need
So
that.
let's do one thing at a time in terms of the thoughts because
Go.
you introduced so much that's important to talk about, I think. So the idea of the group for me is people I want to be with that have a shared desire and where my vision doesn't predominate or their vision doesn't dominate over me. So I get my own vision. People don't tell me what to do or give me advice as much as be with me through the journey and are offering what they have and I'm offering what I have to them. So, and then the shared desire is we all want a better entrepreneur experience. So if that's not there, it's not going to work because someone else wants something else.
And what I've noticed, Larry, at least in the group that we've been able to bring together in Red Pill Pathway, is that we honor that with each other. Like just yesterday, there were three of us in a conversation, and I checked out because it was a conversation I did not wish to be engaged
We
in.
were talking about American politics.
Right. And I don't engage in politics, right?
That's right.
So I went on mute, but I listened. And Brian went, whoa, wait a minute, Larry Gale checked out. And so you immediately pulled in and, so what's going on, Gail? Why did you check out? It's like, I'm not interested in participating in this conversation. I'll listen, but don't wish to participate. And that was okay too. But the fact that folks are aware whether or not you're engaged or not in the group and honoring that is so important.
It's almost difficult, if not impossible, to explain this to someone who isn't used to it, even though it's uncommon common sense, because we're not used to it. So what we're used to in our society, I've noticed in these business groups, is opinions and beliefs and convictions being confused often even the leader of the group who has an opinion, belief, or conviction about how to do something and is imposing that on the group as the strategy for the group, as the leader of the group, with experience and observations. This is not a small difference.
It's a huge difference. And we all, I know I slip into the opinions or beliefs every once in a while. And
I did
again,
yesterday.
right. And the group will say, did you experience that? Or is that an opinion, Gail? And I'll be like, oh, yes, you're right. And then I get back to my experience of whatever it is that we're talking about. And it's so important because as I articulate my experience, I actually learn more about my experience, right? What about you, Florian? What happens when you're sharing from your own perspective with the group?
Well, I think I have a very special approach to groups. That is, I consider that whoever is speaking from a perspective of opinions and beliefs, but not because it's something I consider as a universal truth. So whatever you think about politics, you can think that. And it might be true in 99.99% of the cases. And I always consider there is that kind of tiny doubt. And I'm like, what if there is something different in all of that? Or what if that person experiences this, but there's a specific reason behind it? So I just don't take it personally. I'm just listening to what people say, not taking it personally, and just, I think that's the power of the group, by the way. It's, you give your experiences and I take what I want from them, or I question those things, and we build a more powerful experience.
Let's talk about that, because the issue that I've noticed is that there's different layers of conversations. So there's the conversations we're aware of, there's the conversations going on we're not aware of, there's the conversations that are unknown that we just really can't ever be aware of. It's all going on at the same time. And one of the things I've noticed with the 99.999% opinion entering the room is there's a deflation happening with separation that people aren't even seeing. So for me, getting it out of the room is the key, because that allows the room to lift everyone, because people may be okay with it, but still feeling separated from the conversation. Whereas if people are sharing experiences, no one ever feels separated, because then it becomes like what Gail's saying.
Yeah, it's my experience, and I'm just sharing with you what I went through in the past day or the past week, or there was someone in our group today who's going through a struggle that I've already gone through. I'm just going to share. I'm not going to tell her what she needs to do. I'm going to share my story of what, oh yeah, I experienced something similar. Here's what I experienced.
Yes.
Right. And then hopefully she will learn something that's valuable to her or not.
Or not. And the approach I took was to be a little more forceful than I wanted to be, but still sharing from experience, not telling her what to do. Now she could, this is where Florian's going, she could have assumed that I was telling her to do that. So that's called projection. So I had to be careful to say a few times, or not, or something to make a caveat on it. In other words, you sort through this, not me. But I gave her a playbook that I know will work for her, or maybe it won't, because how could I know? Because there's other elements there that maybe I'm not aware of.
And that's
Well,
the beauty. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just about to say this is very powerful. The acknowledgement that maybe I don't know. That's to me the tiny doubt I put in almost
That's
every
the
conversation.
1%. That's right.
Yes, yes. It's like maybe I don't know, and then I apply this chess approach I told you about before, but maybe people would be interested in. So it's curiosity, humility, empathy, and sincerity. And I start with curiosity, right? I ask questions. What if I don't know? I need to ask, right? That's my
Yeah.
perspective on it.
I
Yes.
love it. And one of the other things that you said, Larry, that's important, I want to bring it out, is there's definitely a playbook. It's not a to-do list, it's a framework. And what I've done with the framework is I've used the framework as a guide, and so far 100% of the time, no matter which process I was in, I would get to a point and I would say, yeah, I got it, and that was it, I'm done going through the
It's
playbook. And then when I
it's
look back, I've done all the stuff.
it's so hilarious. So I've got a playbook for market authority planning. That's more advanced. I got a playbook for More Money Now. How do you get out in the market with what you really want? I got a playbook for Red Pill Pathway. How do you create a company from the inside out into the world? And I thought, as I was constructing this, people had to go through all of it to get success. And the truth is, they do, because all the principles are important through every phase. But you can go through it in a circular way. You can go through it sideways. You can go through it backwards. You can go through it up and down. You can go through it linearly. And you can do what I noticed you doing, which was hilarious, where you started rewriting my framework for you, but you weren't rewriting the principles.
Right.
The principles came out later, where you did every single one of them when you double checked your work later.
Right. But
And you didn't copy anything that I did to do the principles that I didn't create, but just figured out.
exactly. And that is what's so beautiful about this group, and the power of the group that doesn't have a guru or a sage.
No, I don't know what I'm doing with the
No,
1%.
neither do I.
What I do know is how to build an entrepreneurial business. I know how to get clients. I know how to scale things without a team. I know how to deal with the technology nightmare. I know how to figure out the software platforms. I don't know how to do it, but I know how to do it in terms of getting it done. So that's the point, is I've been doing it since I was 21 years old. So I have a lot of expertise. What I don't know is, of all of that, what playbook, I know the playbook that works. What I don't know is how to walk the path for Gail. I don't know how to walk the path for Florian. And when I realized that, it was a relief. So now I don't have to be in charge.
Right.
Or the guru.
And that's what drew me to this group. It's the first time I wasn't told I'm wrong. This is what you should be doing.
And people
Right.
don't say that because the coach doesn't know that's what they're doing. So I had one last February and March that really screwed me up, because I was going through inner stuff where I would have been best served by working with you and Brian. I was working with Sharon in our group, and thank God. And this coach is one of the top coaches around, and is massive coaching training, and is really good at what she does, and screwed me up because she wasn't able to see that she didn't know what I was going through. And I asked for business support, and it's the opposite of what I needed, because I already knew the answer to all the business problems, but I felt like I didn't. So I was drowning in my own mind, and I needed somebody to say, you're good. You don't need this business stuff. You already know more than I do about it, which is true, actually. You need inner development coaching at a deeper level. She did figure that out. and made a referral for me, but it was after I spent 8 grand.
Yeah. And I've realized that I would say my first ever client as a coach, as a business, and I'm doing air quotes, quote, right? Right? That, I'll tell you the story. I had a client come to me, backing up, my business is getting me down. Meanwhile, I'm ready to do a 5-year plan. I've got the strategy things on the wall ready to do. And I'm like, we can't do this if his business is getting him down.
Right.
This, so,
Because
so
they're in the playbook of fear, and I'm
yes,
going to force the result, because if I don't get this thing, I'm not going to feel better.
right. And so that is my first experience of understanding all of the problems are internal. And that's just my job. That's just what I do. And so if it's internal and it's personal, then how can someone externally tell me what to do? All I can do as a coach for that person is help them bring that stuff out and figure out how to deal with it. And that's what this group does.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the mind. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Florian.
Yeah, no, I wanted to introduce what a framework is, because we had that conversation with Gail, in which was how do we explain a framework? And I have an idea of that. So this is a
What is that?
paperclip,
A
right?
paperclip.
Yeah, that's the framework. You see it as something that holds paper together, do you? I don't, because when
Oh
I
no, it makes a
just
great necklace.
unfold it, yeah, a necklace, or I can use it to just eject my SIM card from my smartphone, or I can use it to make a hole in paper, right? Or anything else, if I have enough. So I can use it differently, the way I want to. That's, I think, what framework is. And something, so I also had a question, how does that dynamic that we introduced here about not projecting opinions and beliefs make the group more powerful and allows us to avoid at least the feeling of disaster? And we might know soon, for those who don't yet, but really do it. How does it allow us to avoid disaster?
Well, for me, let's talk about technology a bit. So my vision was flexible, extensible technology not owned by corporate overlords. So I wanted to find companies that were unlikely to sell to the what I call corporate bots. So Slack sold to Salesforce, and that was probably in the plan. So we used Slack for my business, other business. I didn't want to use something like Slack for the entrepreneur experience and Red Pill Pathway. And then I looked at all these different systems, and I ended up picking Go High Level and Notion, two of the most complicated systems to figure out, but they were absolutely perfect because of the way those companies are structured with an open heart. So it's actually Open API is also an open heart and a decentralized structure. And we did the same with picking Discord over Slack, even though people are often uncomfortable with these things. And we picked Welo, which could be sold to a corporate overlord. I hope not. But if it is, we'll go somewhere else, or maybe it won't get screwed up by whoever they sell it to. It depends. You can have good overlords, like Microsoft does a pretty good job with LinkedIn. Depends, we'll see. These things are hard for users, including myself and an assistant that I've got in the Philippines who's been brilliant. We built an entire infrastructure for under $1,200 a month, and I'm terrible at the analytics and the tagging and just the whole thing. And it's a really good world-class system that could build up to a $30-40 million company and not have to be redone. How could I do that? Well, I can take it 80%. I've done it so many times. I can take the tech 80% myself. This time I took it 40%. Rowan did the rest of it, but there was still the last mile plug-in into the house, and that was Gail. And Gail didn't charge us for her considerable Greenbelt Six Sigma ability to go behind the scenes and tag all this crap in the marketing automation sequences that aren't marketing sequences, or just communications approaches in this incredibly powerful but super complex technology. Now it's done and it works. I was drowning in that.
Right. Right. And, with the Six Sigma, it's all, I look for disaster and then we backtrack so that we don't have disaster. That's basically what Six
I gave you a
Sigma
list
is.
of disasters.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of them. So, but back to how to avoid disasters, right? What's been the experience for me? Um, I tend to, when I'm being talked to, not talked with, shut down, right? I tend to yeah, I don't hear a word you say anymore. Like it's like the peanuts wah, wah, wah at the teacher, right? I
Oh
don't
yeah, that's why they did that, because the
okay.
kids are learning from somebody who's lecturing.
Right, wah, wah,
That's
wah,
right.
wah, wah, right, and that's what happens.
Oh, I just realized that.
Right, in my whole cancer journey, you don't know how many people were wah, 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 telling me what I should be doing, right?
Mhm.
So it became very loud during that in this group because we're talking from our own experience, and I will share something I experienced from your sharing, but never coach you, never tell you what to do. I will offer, like I did to that person, to you want to get together offline. And I'm still going to just share my experience. It's such a different way to live, and it is so freeing because I listen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different way to live, because the idea is being an original in a group of originals can be a group. And I learned this when I was 17 years old, because between 17 and 24, I was in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got stuck there, but I'm not an alcoholic because I skidded off the rails like a lot of kids who smoked pot and took acid every day back when I was growing up. So, they threw me in this place, with all these adults and other teenagers who'd crushed their lives too. So I'm in the room with multimillionaires and people who'd gotten out of prison, and there were no hierarchies. Now, hierarchies established often around how many years you were sober. So certain people would be like, I've been sober 30 years, and everybody would go, ooh, so it can happen in AA too. But for the most part, it's eliminated. So that was the playbook. And then these men's weekends I've done, it's the same thing. It's the whole world meeting together on a weekend, where the playbook is, we're fixing our lives together without a hierarchy. But then I get into the business world, and it's all hierarchies based on measurable outcomes. I do 10 grand a month. I'm not as good as someone who does 100 grand a month. They know more. Well, I do 100 grand a month. I'm not as good as someone who does a million a month. And I'm talking to some of these people, and I'm like, I know more than you do, and you have a $100 million company. I'm listening to them. I'm like, I've never had one, but I know more than you do about it. So I'm like, why am I listening to you? So the idea of collapsing hierarchies in business, making it personal first, was the vision that I had without even realizing that's what was going on. And it worked, but it's hard for people because in business, we're used to the hierarchy. We're used to the measurement where someone else decides who knows and who doesn't.
Right. And I know I used to believe that if I was lost, then I need to find someone to show me the way.
That's right.
And I'm the only one who knows the way for me, but I do need someone to bounce the ideas off of.
Of course.
Right. Right. Your thoughts. Go ahead, Florian.
Yes, I think it's exactly the thing with being human. We were not designed to look at ourselves, just like sit down and look at ourselves. That's why meditation and such similar practices are practices and not just the normal way of living, right?
That's not the end result.
Yes, yes. But
You know,
and I think
It's like, now what?
yes,
It didn't
yes.
manifest. Why did it not manifest?
Right.
And what I observed is I can do exactly the same thing as meditation would do in, like, I can have the same result but not meditate just by observing what's happening around me and how it feels within me. So I had recently had that conversation with my wife that was about insecurity, and at some point being like, oh, okay, I noticed that I have this within me because I'm speaking with her and she's reflecting that back on me. That's both the ups and downs of living with someone. Is
Yes.
they're
That's-
such a great source of personal development, and in the meantime, it's so easy to blame it on themselves for
Yeah,
everything
the funhouse
we
mirror
feel.
effect. The funhouse mirror
Yes.
effect. That's right.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I really have that. It's like I can do the same thing, but just looking around. And I see it a lot in the group. That's why, to me, it's so powerful. I don't have to speak a lot or speak at all. And that's why I love facilitating the Summit Club. It's like I hear what everybody is saying and I can take mental notes if I want to, and not force my brain, like not tell my brain, hey, let's meditate because I feel like there's an issue here. And just look around and say, okay, I notice things. And if it's an issue for me, I can decide what to do with it. And I can still ask others, hey, I'm going through that. I think I'm running towards a disaster if I keep going this way. Do you have perspective on that maybe I can use? Or maybe, well, I can use it because if I like it, I can keep it. If I don't, I know I don't. And I can still narrow the path that I want to go on and walk.
I want to talk about the Summit Club for a minute because it's a perfect example of this in a way. So it came about because I was running this event every week and I had all these speakers. So the strategy is called content-based networking, and it's from a guy named James Cadbury. And I started listening to him and I'm like, wow, this is brilliant. So I do an event, bring on these top speakers, and I get to know them. And then I get access to what's called other people's audiences. So I have a friend, Ellen Melko Moore, who's a genius at teaching this stuff. The other thing I get is they may become clients if I have a higher end product offering. So Ellen told me, we were on a call, she said, you're one of the best I've ever met at bringing new ideas into the room. I would pay just to be around that and be around other people that care about that. So I was like, well, let's call it the Summit Club. And I launched it immediately into the speaker network that I'd had at my forum events, Solopreneur Inc. Revenue Climber Forum, and 70 people showed up. And I thought, aha, I'm getting somewhere. Well, that was almost 2.5 years ago. And what ended up happening was there was a guy in the group who's really good at selling and networking, and he got all the clients paying him from that group, and I got none. And it was because I realized as I was doing it that this particular product, as it was constructed, was not for me. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I didn't want to create a pipeline as a funnel kind of thing without selling as a strategy. So the entire content-based networking approach and creating that event, signature offer, bringing people in, or even eventually charging them was not what I wanted to be doing. It was practice for the real Summit Club, which is what we created, which is exactly what I used to do with personal development, or sometimes do with personal development groups in a business context where everybody gets to be themselves. So I was learning along the way, and I had hundreds of people come through that Summit Club, and I'm wondering, why can't I figure out how to make money with this? The point wasn't to make money with it. The point was to learn how to do it. And then I realized I didn't want to facilitate it anymore because I just wanted to be there, and I didn't want to have to be paying attention to all the different emotions and stuff going on. So then we turned it over to you, power the group again, and you like doing that. I don't. Boom, done.
Right? Right. And that is the collaboration that comes out of working with the group. And that is something else that I love. A lot of us do very similar things, right? There really isn't any difference between what Sharon does and what I do, but we do it very, very differently. And so we honor and support each other's approach very, very differently.
Well, I'm going to, so we got 1 more minute, and then I'm going to stay on for another 10, but I want to
Yep.
end with one thing is, again, it's perspective. So Gail sees, you just said it, you and Sharon doing similar things. I don't,
Mhm.
in terms of my experience of both of you. So becoming freed from internal attachments to people and things I can't even see or understand is what I did with you. And getting into a prosperity flow at a deeper level. With Sharon, what I did was become free of belief systems
Right.
that aren't true, that I learned from my family structure and took on. To me, it was a very different experience, both important differently. And without one or the other, I would not be as far along. And that's the power of the group is I got to work with you and
And
Sharon. and
Yes.
it was very different. And outside of this group, I wouldn't have been able to have that.
Yeah. And then what Florian brings is just amazing. And so come see us. All right, you take your 10
All right,
minutes.
thanks, guys. See you later today. We got
Talk to
a
you soon.
meeting and coming up.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to do a little behind the scenes stuff here about what's going on with me, and hopefully you can get something, out of this. So I want to talk about playbooks and how to construct your own playbook. So I think there's 3 playbooks right now. So Florian's talking about them as frameworks. So it's a paperclip. Do whatever you want with the paperclip. Use it the way it's designed. Those are linear kind of thinkers. You're the kind of person who wants the rules and go boom, 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 or you're the kind of person who needs a lot of hand holding and direction. Take the paperclip and keep it a paperclip and just go boom, 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 boom. But you still have to have responsibility for your own life and your own business, because how would I know? Or you're the type of person like me or Gail or Florian or Brian or Sharon. Sharon will follow the process. Brian will follow the process. So for me, it's like I'm going to bend the paper clip. I'm going to break it. I'm going to twist it upside down and stand on my head. But I still got to use everything in the framework, or I'm not going to succeed, because those are principles. They're not mine. They're just principles. Principles aren't my values. Those are values. It's different. Values are examined beliefs. Principles are just there, like gravity. You have to know them, or you're going to get crushed by them. If you know them, you can play with them and succeed faster. Done. So with this playbook, the idea is I can think about how to make more money now without chasing money. That is a principle. That is, if you chase money, the money runs away. In other words, you show up in the market pushing, plotting, pleading, desperate, whatever. It works for some people. See, I'm twisting it around, because there were times in my life where that's the only way I could show up. I was a maniac networker. I went to meetings every day. I wrote an article about my history of this. If you want to know about history of networking in Chicago, and you want to know how to network right, how to network wrong, in other words, your way, go to my content page. I just wrote a long article about my experience of this, of being in all these groups where you learn elevator messages and how to get in, how I got in really high level groups I didn't belong in, and how I succeeded in them on my own terms, and used them for my leverage. But the feeling was often pain and desperation and pushing and struggling. But I built a $1.5 million passive income business doing that. So who am I to say to you, don't do that? So More Money Now can be applied however you want, because it's product, connect, ask, schmooze, and next. If you want to know how it works, I'm not going to tell you now, because you got to come to it yourself. But I've got it all out in public on the content page. Just go to the content page and scroll down to the More Money Now videos. Listen to them. Join our More Money Now group if you want. Claim a guest pass and come in. In a week, will somebody ask you for money? Yeah. Do you have to give it to them? No. If you don't have any, we figured out a way you can get some. So you can pay us. So we don't have to be an exclusive mastermind group only for people who've already become successful. I can't stand that. Those are the groups I was in, a lot of them. Others weren't. Everyone was pretending to be successful because they were broke. But in transition, fine too. So that's More Money Now. Now, another pathway, what I'm called the red pill pathway, is in 8 phases. And I'm working on those videos. I've recorded them at least 27 times now. And the entire program, I feel like I've done 150 times over 3 years, because it keeps evolving. And now it's to the point where I'm like, I'm done with this. Now I just have to do it again. But when you practice something that often, it starts getting good. I learned that from Brendan Burchard, who was like, wow, I did videos for 2 years or something before I felt like they were any good. But they were always good, because they were just where he was. But then now other people think they're good too. So I'm working on those 8 overview videos and then redoing the entire program, which I can't put the program out in public because it'll confuse people. because it's behind the scenes stuff with lots of intricate interlacing elements. So there'll be a lot of malpractice if I put it out in public on my part of confusing people. But the overview will help a lot of you just figure out your own way forward. So forward to what? A life of thought that connects into action, that leads into impact in the marketplace, which leads back to thought. So it's a spinning circle that turns into an upward flying flywheel over time. So More Money Now is exploring business development, is basically being in the market looking for what's next for you and your company, not selling. Sales is different. Sales is, I've already figured it out. I'm in the process now. I hate sales. I love business development because I don't like working in my own processes. I keep reinventing them as I go. So they're not processes anymore. It's business development, creative invention in real time. That's how I do it. That's what business development is. Sales, I've never been able to do because then I have to work in someone else's process. I'm doing business development in someone else's rigorous process when I've been in sales jobs. And the sales leaders and the CFOs are like, what the hell are you doing? And we do pipeline reviews and all right, you know about sales, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. So then the other approach I call market authority planning. And that market authority planning is, how do you really explode into the marketplace on impact and not let the impact crush you? In other words, no compromise. And market authority planning is elevated red pill pathway, but with another angle, because instead of using storytelling to get people to do what you want, the strategy of, the customer's the hero of your journey, I don't do that anymore. I learned how that works and did it, and it didn't work for me, but it's working for a lot of people. So do it then, because if you do that really well and you're a great marketer, they'll get it and start buying from you. It didn't work for me. Instead, what worked was figuring out who the hero is through More Money Now, knowing the hero of the story is all entrepreneurs who want a better entrepreneur experience, vision realized, because they're creative visionaries, entrepreneurs, coaches who just want to help people get what they want so they can go help people and on their own terms, not compromise anything. And then service providers, I've learned, because I was one, but didn't want to be, just want to deliver services where they're experts and not even have to build a company. They just want the company to work. So the idea of market authority is do that big in your own way with whatever big means to you, with the storytelling methodology not being about figuring out what will work. That's marketing. Marketing's figuring out what will work. What I'm talking about with marketing authority is the hero of the story is your market and you're in it. You're the hero too. It's a you. It's an us. That's the power of the group. So my story is for us. The hero, when I think, and I'm thinking, what kind of story is mine? Is it a drama? Is it for a while, it was a European art film. And I'm like, well, that's attracting a really small audience that loves European art films. And I'm like, but that's not what I want, because I want it to have broader appeal. But, I could have gone that direction. It's just I decided I don't want to do that. However, it could be, is it a love story? No, I'm not about love and connection. I am, but not in my storyline, because my life is not that. My life is an action adventure movie. And I was like, aha, I'm Die Hard. I'm Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Who else is? We are Bruce Willis in Die Hard because we're crashing into the world trying to figure out how to make a living outside the Matrix. That's an action adventure movie. So that clicked. Market authority planning. Am I going to tell you to create an action adventure movie story for your market authority presentations, for your content? Or just, you don't want to make content, don't. Just talk to people if that's what you want to do. Forget the content. You don't need it. You don't want to do social media? Don't do it. But you still have to have the market authority. This is the idea of the frameworks. You got to know your we. That's the market. It's not the people you're trying to sell. The people you're trying to sell are within your market, the clients. If you focus only on them, you're separating yourself from the market. And you miss the partnerships, you miss the peers, you miss the leverage, you miss the other people's audiences, which you can approach from the standpoint of getting the target to buy from you. I spent my whole life doing that. Decided I don't want to anymore. Now I want to be a we in the market, power of the group. Don't do that if you don't want to, or it seems too complicated or it doesn't feel right. It means it's not for you. What's for you is maybe figuring out how to get to the target faster and get them to buy. Then do that. But do it as a market authority. Otherwise, the market will dictate to you what you get to do. You'll let the market be in charge. Well, who's in markets? How do markets work? There's always a couple celebrities. It's amazing. There's the Taylor Swifts and the Kim Kardashians and the Albert Einsteins of every market. And sometimes their names are like Alex Hormozy for the entrepreneurs, celebrity. Same thing. And I remember years ago in the Google market, how to succeed on Google, it was a guy named Rand Fishkin. And he had his, they're waiting with bated breath for Rand Fishkin from Google to tell him what's going on because he knew and no one else did. He was really smart and he was an expert. So he tried to follow him. The problem is when that person drives your strategy beyond just knowing what they're saying and learning from them, but you try to copy them or be like them because everyone wants to be like him. Everyone wanted to be like Michael Jordan when I worked in product marketing years ago. And I didn't. I wanted to be like me. Company I work with produced the Gatorade National Sales Convention and worked with Michael Jordan and the CMO of Gatorade. And I didn't care. I'm standing in the back of the room thinking, wow, is this cool? I get to be a part of this. But I didn't want to be like Mike and buy Nikes. I wanted to make money. And I eventually wanted to have my own business again because I had started one earlier, or not started, but built one earlier, so I had a lifestyle company. And then I ended up building another business later from figuring out how to use all these experiences. That's me. Maybe you don't want a business. That's the power of the group. It makes it a lot easier to do this.